What's up, Christ Centered Mental Health community? This is me, David Lee Chu Sarche. I represent Christ Centered Mental Health, the ministry where I talk about mental health awareness from a Christian perspective in order to give you real hope in Jesus' name to the glory of God the Father. All right, before we get started on this episode of Real Life with Schizophrenia, I have a quick message for you. For those of you that are new to the channel, please check out the Christ Centered Mental Health Ministry website. It is www.christcenteredmentalhealth.net. There you can have access to the On Faith and Mental Health blog. You can check out our statement of faith. You can check out the Christ Center Mental Health Ministry store. You can check out how to contact me or someone on the ministry team for 24-hour peer support. And you can find out how to support the ministry either through Patreon, Venmo, or Cash App. As you can see, this is our bi-weekly episode of Real Life with Schizophrenia. My co-host is Joseph McDermott. How you doing today, Joseph? Hello? I think he froze. Oh, hello? We can't hear you, bro. Oh.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh,
how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So as I said in the description box, we want to talk about ADHD and ADD. Now, I don't experience ADHD or ADD, but I know Joseph does. So, Joseph, would you like to explain in your own words what exactly is ADD and ADHD?
Well, I got diagnosed. At first, I was diagnosed bipolar strictly when I was in juvenile detention at age 17. But then at age 20, I got diagnosed with schizoaffective with ADD, which later became ADHD. Basically, it's I'll give you an example of what it is. Like, say I'm at a school or something, right? And the teacher says the red ball bounced to the right. I'll start thinking about red things, like, I don't know, watermelons, balloons, red stuff, right? And then I'll start thinking about balls like footballs and basketball and NBA, and I'll just start having racing thoughts down the road. Meanwhile, the teacher's explaining the subject, and I'm thinking all these things. I'm looking like I'm paying attention, but my mind races, and it's very hard to pay attention because she said right, and then I start thinking, oh, maybe conservatism or like right-handed, or it's just how my mind works. And my mind is always racing. It's not that we're slow people. It's just that when we hear something, we have to like analyze it and pick it apart, and then we start going off on a tangent of thoughts of the subject because we're very opinionated. We have a lot of we, even though it's hard for us to study, we absorb knowledge regardless. And most of us aren't too dumb, like I would suppose, but it's just that it's just hard for us to learn and pay attention to things that we're not interested in. If we're interested in it, like the Bible, for instance, I like how it's versed, how it's very short and numbered and stuff. I can get a lot of wisdom from one verse, and I can read one chapter and then I can learn a lot from that. But a typical book for me, I'll forget the paragraph right after I read the next paragraph. So I'll be like, what happened in the first one? Like, I got to read it again. And I'll be reading the first two paragraphs just to absorb it. If I'm not interested in it, it's just not sinking in,
Yeah. I can understand that because, like, when I get manic, I'm kind of like that too. Like, my mind constantly races. I have a hard time focusing on things. And, like, so, but at the same time, when I'm manic, that's when I'm really creative too. At the same time, so, but yeah, I can definitely understand that. So, would you say that your ADHD or ADD affects your bipolar?
I would say all three of them kind of affect each other in ways that they just do. Like my ADD, when I'm in a manic state, my paranoia and delusions act up, and then also my racing thoughts. It's like I have racing thoughts, but since I'm schizophrenic, they're disorganized. So I have disorganized racing thoughts, and I have a bad memory. So I don't even
Yeah.
remember what I'm thinking half the time. So
Yeah, no, I get that. Like I said, like when I deal with mania, sometimes I have disorganized thoughts too. So sometimes I don't remember what I was thinking either when I get manic. Like sometimes when I'm manic, like I don't even know what I did during the time that I was manic. Like I'll remember maybe like 2 or 3 days later what I did when I was manic. But sometimes in the moment when I have a manic episode, people usually have to tell me what I did when I was manic because sometimes I don't even know what I did when I was manic. Like,
you can tell yourself during a speech you're not into. You can be like, okay, from this point on, I'm gonna listen. It's pointless. It's not gonna work. You're gonna
yeah,
have thoughts eventually. You can't help it. So
exactly.
unless you're on Ritalin or something, you really can't help the racing thoughts.
Well, that leads me to another question. Like, I've always heard that with people with ADHD or ADD, I always heard that giving someone like that coffee actually calms down people with ADHD and
Well,
ADD.
in my personal life, it makes me tired. It makes me more lethargic. It doesn't make me hyper. But
Okay.
as far as the racing thoughts, though, it hinders it very slightly, if at all. So
Oh,
barely.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's
I tried.
interesting.
I tried drinking coffee when I was taking my peer support classes, and I barely passed. And I was kind of upset because I thought I was a hot shot student, and turned out I was one of the worst.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. All right, so one of the things I wanted us to do with this topic of ADHD, like as of I have a copy of the DSM-5, which for those of you that aren't aware of what that is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. It's basically like the Bible for psychiatrists. It has all the mental illnesses listed and talks about what the mental illnesses are. So I thought it'd be interesting. Like, okay, so I have the page open to attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and it says that a persistent, like in order for someone to be diagnosed with this, they have to have a persistent pattern of inattention or of hyperactivity impulsivity that interferes functioning or development as characterized by one or two. Then it says 6 or more of the following symptoms have persisted for at least 6 months to a degree that is inconsistent with developmental level and that negatively impacts directly on social and academic occupational activities. So basically, in order for someone to be diagnosed with ADHD or ADD, they have to experience at least 6 of these characteristics for like 6 months in a row. So I want to read each of these, and I want you to have a response to this. Joe, tell me what you think
Sure.
if you can relate to it. So the first one is often fails to give close attention to details or makes careless mistakes in schoolwork, at work, or during other activities. For example, overlooks or misses details, work is inaccurate.
Yeah, like I'm a very I'm a hard worker. When I have a job, I try to get the job done, but I
Hmm.
do make a lot of careless mistakes and whatnot. And work to me, especially if it's retail, it's torture. I'm like, as soon as I'm in the first hour, I'm thinking about leaving. And I got 7 hours to go, and
Yeah.
um, like the boss will be telling me something. I'll try to get the gist of it, but if she tells me like details that are important, I'm most likely I'm gonna miss it. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. The next one is often has difficulty sustaining attention in tasks or play activities. For example, has difficulty remaining focused during lectures, conversations, or lengthy reading.
Yeah, I can't read. I mean, I can pronounce words. I understand what they mean. So I'm not illiterate. But
Yeah.
like as far as reading, I remember one time in seventh grade, we did a book report on The Outsiders, and I was supposed to read the whole book and do a report on it. And then and after we did that, we were gonna watch the movie. My
Yeah.
report was so far out of left field compared to the movie. I mean, I only got like some details right, but it was just not even close. So,
I bet you your friends probably had a good laugh about that, huh?
they made sure my friends weren't in the same classes as me in seventh grade for whatever reason. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the next one is often does not seem to listen when spoken to directly. For example, mind seems elsewhere, even in the absence of any obvious distraction.
Say that one more time. Sorry.
Often does not seem to listen when spoken to directly. For example, mind seems elsewhere, even in the absence of any obvious distraction.
You know, it's funny you just brought that up because when you started bringing up like the not paying attention thing, and I started thinking of school. I was thinking of school the whole time, and like that stuff, and like back in those days, and then I just totally missed what you said. So there's a good example right there.
I know that is a good example. All right, so often does not follow through on instructions and fails to finish schoolwork, chores, or duties in the workplace. For
Oh yeah.
example, starts tasks but quickly loses focus and is easily sidetracked.
Yeah, like I'll tell myself I'm gonna clean my house today, and I'll clean it for like 5 minutes, and I'll be like I'm gonna take a break, and then I won't even go back to it.
Yeah. So basically, you need to like if you start something, you need like someone to encourage you to keep going. Would that help?
It's not absolutely necessary, but I don't know. I hate cleaning because I'm just gonna dirty it up in 2 days anyway, so it seems pointless to me sometimes.
You know what? You kind of remind. I remember when I was a kid, my mom used to like get on me for not making my bed, and I would
Mhm.
always think to myself, "Why am I gonna make my bed when at nighttime I'm just gonna ruin it anyways and go back to sleep?"
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Maybe you got ADD.
Yeah, I know, right? All right, so often, okay, so the next one is often has difficulty organizing tasks and activities. For example, difficulty managing sequential tasks, difficulty keeping materials and belongings in order, messy, disorganized work, has poor time management, fails to meet deadlines.
Okay. I had something recently happen to me that reminds me of this. I temporarily had a job as a janitor, but they didn't have the hours I wanted. So they said, like, well, we can give you the hours you want if you do dispatch. And I was at the office at the time, and I was like, okay, I'll think about it. And then when I was going home, I was like, I ain't doing that. I know I'm gonna fail at it. So so I quit.
So you in your mind you shut it down before even trying it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I ain't doing no
makes sense.
dispatch. I ain't doing no dispatch.
Yeah. All right. So the next one is often avoids, dislikes, or is reluctant to engage in tasks that require sustained mental effort. For example, schoolwork or homework for older adolescents and adults, preparing reports, completing forms, reviewing lengthy papers.
Yeah, when I get mail, I don't even read it most of the time.
Why is that?
I don't like to read.
I don't like to. So you think it'd probably be easier if they sent you like a something in audio form?
Or text me or call me or something. That'd be better
Text you or
for
call
me.
you? Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
of course, someone calls me right now.
Oh. All right. So the next one is often avoids, dislikes, or is reluctant to engage in tasks that require. Oh, no, I just read that one. Hold on. The next one is often Often loses things necessary for tasks or activities. For example, school materials, pencils, books, tools, wallets, keys, paperwork, eyeglasses, mobile telephones.
Before they ran out of business, I used to work at 99 cent only, and I lost my name tag so much they gave up on making me new ones and stopped giving me new ones. Like I was every day I lost it practically. So yeah.
Well, I know you also said you tend to lose your wallet. Well, you said
The
you don't lose your
remote,
wallet.
my keys. I don't lose my wallet because of the chain.
Yeah,
The chain really comes in handy, but I would before the chain I would lose my wallet all the time in the past. Yeah. So
yeah.
yeah,
That's scary
my
because what
phone
if you lost?
occasionally I'll lose, but
Yeah,
now I got this one app that I'm always on, so I rarely lose
yeah,
my phone now. It's a really expensive phone, so I make sure I have my phone at all times.
yeah,
But
yeah.
like, I'm under contract. I haven't even paid it off yet, so I don't want to lose my fucking phone.
Yeah,
Sorry
I
for
don't
that, by
blame you.
the way. That was my bad, but
Oh, you see the F word? I didn't hear you.
I didn't mean
Sorry.
to. It was an accident, right?
Oh, okay.
Like
So
yeah,
next, so the next one is often easily distracted by extraneous stimuli. For older adolescents and adults, may include unrelated thoughts. So basically, you get distracted by extra things around you. You get distracted easily by extra things around you.
well, to this day, I play video games all the day, pretty much. So,
Yeah,
but that it's not just because of my ADD. Because of that, that's one of the reasons why I don't let it go. Maybe, but the reason why I play video games is because it was my escape from my parents fighting all the time. That's what my
yeah,
NES and my Super NES put me in a world where I could ignore the yelling.
yeah. No, I get that. And also, the next one is often forgetful in daily activities. For example, doing chores, running errands for older adolescents and adults, returning calls, paying bills, keeping appointments.
Yeah. Like my clinic, if they didn't like call me the day before, I would never keep my appointments ever.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that makes sense. So it's
yeah.
like, it's. You don't ever put anything in your calendar on your phone?
If they call me, what's the point of that?
Yeah, that's true. Like, well, I kind of have to because when I make my appointments, I have to I have to give my transportation company 2 days in advance notice. So I kind of have to put my schedule in I have to put a schedule in my calendar. Right.
Right.
But
Well, stuff like that would help me, but I never get to it. Like, it's the thing is with ADD, I get motivated to do things. I either forget or my motivation just subsides completely, so.
yeah. No, I get that. Like, actually, it's kind of interesting with people like us with schizoaffective disorder. There is a real thing called anhedonia, and what that means is it means lack of motivation. So when it comes to people with schizophrenia, we can experience anhedonia for a certain amount of time. There's no limit on anhedonia. You can experience it for a long time, short time, whatever. But when you do experience it, it's like you lack motivation to do basic things like brush your teeth, house chores, stuff like that. It's not exactly laziness, but you do lack the motivation. And like when you experience anhedonia, it's good to have someone encourage you to do stuff and get on you. Not because because anhedonia can quickly turn into laziness, but so that's why it's good to force yourself to do stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there were times in my life I did clean. There were times yeah, it's funny. I remember one time I was fairly clean, not the most cleanest person in the world, but I was fairly clean. And then I looked up online, schizoaffective people don't like to clean very often. And I was like, no wonder I don't like
Yeah.
to clean. Stop cleaning.
That's what you said. That's funny. That's a funny story, actually. All right, so we'll go ahead and go to the videos that I picked out. Screen. Let me see. All right. So the first one, I think you'll find this intriguing. Like, hold on. All right. As you can see, can you
Hey,
see it?
it's Ober Redenbacher, the guy that Popeye lost.
Yeah, that's funny. All right.
Hi, I'm
Can
Rick
you hear it?
Yeah, I can hear him.
Green. Whenever I
As you
give
can tell, this titles of this video is best career for ADHD. So, let's
Oh,
see what he
great.
says is the best career.
a presentation about attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, there are 4 topics that invariably come up in the question and answer period afterwards. And they are medication, number 1, natural remedies, getting diagnosed, decluttering, who should you tell, and finally, finding the right career. And of these four, no wonder I always run long. And of these 4, the most important may be finding the right career.
I think everybody's got something to bring to the world, and because you're stuck with the idea that you can't, and you're stuck with all these challenges, you never get a chance to really tap into your true potential, your true strength, and they can't tap into it because they're so busy just trying to survive every single day of their
I
life.
do agree with that. I know this is about ADHD, but I think this kind of applies to people with mental illnesses in general, because like she's saying, everybody has something to contribute. Everybody has potentiality, and like sometimes I think people like us with mental illness tend to like feel like we can't contribute to society. We're just screw ups, and we're always going to be a damper on society. But I get what she's saying is that we can contribute to society. We can be functional members of society.
Well, I'm trying comedy, but that's just kind of like a hobby. I don't really
Yeah,
intend to make a career out of it or nothing. So
yeah. No, I understand.
lives at work.
I've met so many people with ADHD who struggle for decades, sometimes their whole lives, moving from job to job, seeking a field where they can excel. Excel, heck, even just do okay and not get
Yeah,
fired.
I can like, even though I don't have ADHD, but I can relate to that. Like, I've gone from job to job to job, trying to find the right job that I can excel in, and for some reason, like, well, you know my history. Like, I've never had a job longer than 2 years. Like, my longest job I had was like 2 years, but other than that job, I've never had a job that past a year actually, because I would either end up in a manic episode where I would abruptly quit my job, or I'd end up getting fired from my job.
yeah, I had a semi career in retail for 6 years
Yeah,
off and on. I worked in Safeway for 6 years, but the thing about me is like I can't do customer service. Like I learned that about myself. It's like I need to have a job where there's not too much social interaction. I might try janitor, maybe somewhere else. I tried the airport, but that didn't pan out. But maybe if there's part time somewhere where I can just clean, because like I don't get grossed out easy, so that's not a problem. As long as I don't have to deal with customers and just clean, I'm willing to do
maybe
that. But
maybe you should look into a janitorial position at a hospital then.
that hospitals kind of creep me out.
Oh, all right.
I don't know. Maybe,
Fired.
maybe.
Yeah, no, I understand. I get it.
People with ADHD have faced so much adversity, and in the wrong job, we can be totally depleted.
When I graduated
What
from
do you
high
think
school,
about that when she said people with ADHD has been treated unfairly in jobs?
Well, that I agree with that. That's true because not to change the subject too much, but my wife, when she had a job, she worked at a job where like she told the employer like whatever you do not give me a box cutter for various reasons, and they did it anyway. So like these corporations do not care about your mental illness. They expect you to do the job, and they're not going to cater to your illness whatsoever. And if your illness hinders the job, they can fire you easy as they want to. So
Yeah,
I think that's not just ADD, but mental health in general. There's not
yeah,
really, I know there's peer support and stuff, but I think, what if you don't want to do peer support? What if you want to have a legitimate office job? What if you want to be a fireman? But your mental illness kind of hinders your ability to do your job. There should
yeah,
be a program out there that the government funded that lets these corporations and whatnot and private institutions that should cater to our needs so we can do the job to the best of our ability. Because people with mental illness, we that want to work will be hard workers for you, but
yeah,
we just are a little limited because of our mind.
exactly. Well, we're about to find out in this video what this guy says is the best career for ADHD.
Okay.
School with a perfect C- average, I had no idea what I was going to do for a living, let alone find a niche where I could actually thrive.
Oh, come on.
It's that Ohio internet, bro.
Yeah, I know.
We put tremendous pressure on our young adults to make major career decisions that cost thousands and thousands of dollars and years of their time and effort. And the general population struggles with that. The ADHD population really struggles with that.
Listen, I got lucky. I worked with some great people and I stumbled into what turned out to be a wonderful career for me. First as a comedy writer and performer, eventually progressing to directing, and then naturally producing, and inevitably as an advocate for people with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It wasn't as linear as it was there's a lot of this. Finding the right career can take time. I know. It takes patience. I know. It's not a simple process because ADHD is not simple. It's not one size fits all. We're all a little different.
I can understand. I can understand what he's saying. I can understand what he's saying here because people it's not just ADHD, but people with mental illnesses in general tend to suffer with our mental illness. Like every mental illness is not the same for everyone. Everybody suffers differently with a mental illness. Like, yeah, we might have stuff that overlap with each other and we can have some commonality there. But my mental illness is affecting me somewhere different than your mental illness or Joe Blow's mental illness. And mental illness does not look the same for everyone.
The thing is, though, if you do have a mental illness, you should not be skeptical of psychology because, say you're strictly bipolar, you should realize that person down the street that's diagnosed schizophrenia really does have schizophrenia. I don't know what PTSD is like. I don't know what OCD is like. I don't know what abandonment issue is like. But I'm sure those are very real issues.
Exactly. Yeah.
Unique way.
People will come in and say, I hope this won't take very long. I have ADHD, and I need that list. The list of ADD-friendly jobs, and I'll pick one, and I'll be gone. But it's really not at all that simple. We're very complex beings. We're made up of hundreds of puzzle pieces. And if you took 15 of those people and put them in a room, chances are none of the 15 would be exactly the same. They would all have pieces.
What?
She said you took 15 people and you to put them together. Most likely they wouldn't be all the same or something like that. Yeah. I was like, wow, Captain Obvious. I mean,
yeah, I know. It is pretty simplistic.
Of different symptoms and to varying degrees.
ADHD is so individual. You got the combined subtype, the hyperactive subtype, the purely inattentive subtype. You got 18 core symptoms. Some may be strong, some may not. It's
the combinations of those symptoms and to the varying degrees that you have them, result in somebody having a very different skill set and challenge set than someone else. Both ADD people, perhaps both in the same career field, and they operate totally differently.
The right job for you depends on you and your flavor of ADHD. You want to look at both the areas where you struggle and where you soar. You can thrive in the right situation despite, or sometimes partly thanks to, your symptoms.
My son is a high school teacher, and he loves it because he can be up and about, he can be animated, he can use his energy, he can use his creativity, he can be at the front of the room, the back of the room, sitting, standing, and
I never thought about an ADD or ADHD man being a high school teacher. Like,
Yeah, especially wearing suspenders. Like, who wears suspenders?
yeah, no.
for him,
Like he's
that's
a
perfect.
yodeler.
People with ADD focus in a crisis. They're calm, cool, and collected in a crisis. So they'll often seek dangerous jobs or high stim jobs like a trial attorney,
Racing a motorcycle.
race car driver.
I see the
wild
motorcycle.
What?
I can't even figure out how to drive. I don't think racing a motorcycle would be a good job or whatever. Okay, I might be wrong.
Entrepreneur.
Well, they're just saying these jobs are very high stimulating for someone with ADHD.
Yeah, but you have to learn how to race a car. And I mean, well, maybe it's my schizoaffective, my bipolar, and my ADD is why I can't drive. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Running a bungee jumping operation.
Brain surgeon.
There you go. There you go, bro. You can run a bungee jumping operation.
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't really like heights.
Well, you're strapped together though.
No, maybe that would be fun. I don't know, but
I couldn't.
and then I'd have to do with males and stuff that stink and no, that's all right.
That's all right.
Room physician.
Trader on the commodities exchange.
A stockbroker is in a crazy, overstimulating environment, taking constant.
A stockbroker and an overstimulating.
Brokers.
How's that overstimulating? You just,
Well, all those
You just-
numbers look pretty cool to me. Like the ding, 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 and all those numbers going back and forth. That's kind of cool, you know?
yeah.
risks that would make anybody else think twice with someone else's money. It's perfect.
Really, the key to treating adult ADD is to marry the right person and find the right job. And adults with ADD
Yeah,
often
I
make the
see.
same
Well,
mistake
I
in
did half
both
that right.
domains.
Wait, what?
I married the right person. At least I did half right. You know, I just haven't found the.
Yeah, at least you did half right. Yeah. You know, all you have to do is marry.
Well,
is just marry the
I'm
right
glad
person.
I'm glad these people aren't saying you have to take Ritalin or something, because I do sometimes I do desire that stuff, and my psychiatrist feels that I'll manic and blow up on somebody if I take that stuff, so they
You
refuse
know what,
to
you
give
know
me
what, bro?
medicine for
Now that you marry the right woman, all you have to do is become a bungee jump coordinator, and you're all
Yeah.
set.
No, that's okay.
They marry and work for someone who is controlling, demeaning, picking, and someone who doesn't really like them all that much, because they got the idea around about fifth grade that that's what they needed, that they were a hopeless case. So they had to be ridden, heard on. They had to be controlled. They had to be demeaned and put down.
By the way, some of these experts have ADHD themselves. Most of them are pretty open about it, and they found their happy place. As my mom told me, if you love what you do for a living, you'll never have to work a day in your life. And Mom, she was a mob hit woman, and she loved it.
If somebody happened to have ADHD and they had my job,
Did he
it would
just
be-
say she was a mob hit woman?
I think so.
Wow, that's
I don't know
sweet.
what he means by that, to be honest.
No, maybe he's telling the truth.
Yeah. I have no reason to think he's lying.
Yeah,
It's
why
just
would he
told-
make up for it?
Yeah, I don't know. Mom hit woman. I wonder what he means by that. That's what I want to know.
I mean, it literally means he's a mobster, you know.
I guess, but I don't know. It just seems so weird hearing someone on YouTube just openly.
I'm pretty sure some women do get down that way.
Yeah, I know. I'm pretty sure too. I find it odd that he would just openly say that on YouTube.
Well, it's not that controversial in 2025, is it? I don't know. Like compared to some of the other subjects out here, I don't know, man. Like,
Yeah, I know.
Be perfectly suited. I'm never in the same place for more than 45 minutes. I am managing lots of different projects at the same time. I have an executive assistant to help with things that might make somebody else disorganized. So one can learn to use them to their advantage.
I actually remember a 7-year-old who I said, "What are you going to be when you grow up?" And he said, "A radio announcer." And I said, "Why is that?" And he said, "Because it would be so wonderful if people could just press a button and turn me on and turn me off."
However, for those with the purely inattentive subtype, the more quiet, thoughtful ADD adults, a busy workplace can be overwhelming. Short deadlines, stressful. Constant interruptions, debilitating. And yet they may flourish in a field that has very few set rules or strict deadlines or standard operating
What do you think, bro? Do you think you have the ADD that where you could work in an overstimulated environment, or do you have the ADD where you have to have it quieter and you don't have to meet deadlines? You can just be more creative and like take your time with your work.
I say the latter, not the former.
The latter, yeah, I get that.
procedures. Artist, long distance trucker, writer.
If
Oh,
people
there
with
you go,
ADHD
bro.
could
You could be a long distance trucker.
I don't want to drive.
I know, I'm just kidding with you.
live on the farm and get up with the crows and go to sleep with the cows, they'd be much better off. They wouldn't
Sleep
have that
with
much
the cows.
temptation.
Farming
What?
sounds like paradise, actually. That would be cool if I made my own food and I sold some of it and I just lived on a farm and just raised cattle and sheep and chicken and stuff like that and pigs. That would be actually pretty cool, man. I
Yeah,
would like that. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
you just need the money to start a farm now.
Yeah, getting $900 from Social Security ain't gonna cut it, man.
Exactly, yeah.
I barely
That's
have
an
enough
attribute of our
money in the middle
society.
of
And
the
the
month.
challenge then,
What?
I barely have any money in the middle of the month. It's all gone by the middle of the month, and I have to like make $5 on surveys just to make ends meet. You know, like
Yeah, I understand that.
is, obey the rules of society in order to fit in.
The joke was always that the worst job for somebody with ADHD would be to work in the motor vehicles department, processing papers or in the bank. Or,
Yeah, I can understand. Can you imagine if you got a job with your ADHD at a DMV, bro?
that would probably be torture. You wouldn't want to work there if you have ADD.
I know exactly.
Those people that work there, they seem like they're miserable. Anyways, I wouldn't recommend anybody working there.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't either.
and being a toll collector or whatever, because it's
A
so
toll
boring.
collector.
I think having,
Now that's I became a security guard because I wanted to work at a toll booth and just sit there and fuck with my phone and then just press a button and let cars go by if they have the proper identification. That's simple. I would love that. That would be a great job.
I think everybody would love that kind of job, bro.
But when I got a security job, though, of course, they give me this real complex one where I have to mesmerize a building and time it right and all this stuff. So I had to leave there. And then they put me in a real dangerous grocery store where they was getting robbed all the time and people are threatening each other with guns and stuff in there. I was like, man, this is not what I wanted. This is not what I signed up for.
That's funny. Well, did you at least try and tell them that you wanted to work at the toll booth, but they wouldn't listen?
Nah, I just took what they gave me, and then
Well, you know what they say.
I don't really speak up a lot. I kind of just I get overstimulated by the conversation, and I don't like. I'll just deal with the rest of it later on.
Yeah.
So
Well, you know what they say though, bro. Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
yeah, but I don't know. I'm not a wheel, and I'm not dealing with grease.
Yeah, I know.
The worst kind of job I can think of would be working in a call center, where
Oh,
you're kind of stuck in a chair and you have to respond to people and you have to be civil and have to be nice all the time.
Unless you love being helpful. There's no one list of ADHD-friendly jobs or ADHD-unfriendly jobs.
Traditionally, people have steered ADD individuals away from certain jobs, like accounting and like anything that requires them to sit for long periods of time.
What do you think about that? Do you think that there's been people that try to steer people with ADHD away from certain jobs?
I can see why though.
Yeah.
I don't think we're cut out for certain jobs, but like they said, there's certain people with ADD that can handle of a chaotic environment, and then there's other ones that prefer, a mellow environment. So
Yeah.
if the ones that prefer a mellow environment that can't sit still, I don't think they should be an accountant.
Yeah, yeah.
So
No, I agree.
Truth is that your set of symptoms may be such that you are a hyper focuser.
So if you have a job where you can stay hyper-focused on the project and you don't need to be shifting sets often, that's great. But you're going to do poorly on the tests, on the neuropsychological tests that we use that measure the ability to shift sets.
Yes, there are careers that ADHD people are drawn to. Whether they're a good fit for it is a whole other thing. Sometimes we don't know really what
She said there are careers that ADHD people are drawn to, but not that doesn't necessarily mean that those careers are fitted for someone with ADHD. Have you ever experienced that where you feel like you were drawn to a career, but you realized you weren't fit for it?
I haven't been really a fit for any career I've tried so far.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I've mostly done retail most of my life because they'll hire you no matter what, so it's easy
Yeah.
to get hired at. That's what I've
Yeah.
done mostly, and like I was
You were a what? Bro?
okay, good at janitor. I consider myself an ambivert, but I lean towards more introverts. I don't really
Oh,
like people. Like I get along
yes.
with some people, but that's if they're a Christian and they really believe. If they're not like that, I'm probably not gonna like them too well, to be
Yeah.
honest. Most people in America, in my opinion, are secular that I encounter. So
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about stuff like that. I don't want to talk about what you did on a Friday night at the bar. I don't want to talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
So when I go to jobs, that's what most people talk about, nonsense like that. And it's like, I just get away from me, please. I'd rather,
Yeah, you don't want to talk about that foolishness because you're a Christian now.
tasks are of a particular career. Because there's so many attorney shows, people think that it's like what's on TV. And it's ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Did you ever think to yourself, maybe you should be a lawyer?
No,
Yeah, yeah, no,
never. That thought never crossed my mind. Trust me.
yeah,
And if I'm a good presenter or I'm a good orator or I talk well with people, I'm going to be a great attorney. And truthfully, if you look at the Dictionary of Occupational Titles, which is online, it breaks down jobs into tasks and gives what they call the essential tasks of each job.
Ooh.
And you would
That actually
find
sounds like an interesting website. Like,
Yeah.
wait, what was that called? Hold on, let me rewind that so I can. The Dictionary of Occupational Titles, www.occupationalinfo.org. Huh, that's interesting.
and gives what they call the essential tasks of each job. And you would find that law is 75% data. And so people think they're attracted to a particular field that doesn't necessarily line up with what they're
You know
all
what?
about.
This reminds me. I remember when I was younger, I had these aspirations to become like a photographer, journalist for National Geographic. I had that big dream because I was like, you know what? I like to take pictures. I like to write. So maybe I should go become a journalist for National Geographic because I also would love to travel. But then, like when I started taking journalism classes and stuff, I started to realize I don't like to meet deadlines. Like I don't like that. I like to write at my own pace. And I also didn't like how, like in journalism, you could put in all this work on an article, and you could put your whole heart into it. And your editor, if he doesn't like it, he'll just reject it, and then your article would be garbage. So I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like the fact that I put all this hard work into it, and it just gets rejected at the end of the day.
Yeah. So yeah, I careers like that. I mean, the thing is, when you have a dream, you never think of the hard work that you need to do to achieve that dream. You're just thinking
Yeah,
about the glory, you know. So like,
exactly.
if like like acting, for instance, if you think you're going to be a good actor, you have to mesmerize lines, and that director is going to say cut over and over again until it's perfect. Does that sound like fun to you? No, it doesn't.
Whoa, yeah, trust me, I know that all too well because I used to be in plays when I was younger. And yeah, like I had like it was grueling having to remember lines and then doing the same scene over and over and over again. But you know what? Like when I was in those plays, those were some of the funnest moments of my entire life. Like I enjoyed like memorizing the lines. I enjoyed being on stage and acting out my part. I enjoyed like the other actors with me. Like it was a really fun time to be honest. Like
There you go. That's cool.
yeah. That was actually part of the reason why at one point I was thinking about changing my major to theater. But then I realized there's not much money in theater. Like you're like just because you get a degree in theater does not mean you're going to go to Hollywood and make it big like Brad Pitt
Yeah.
or
You would, have,
Denzel.
you would have to be a Freemason to do that. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we're not going to go there.
Of course, there are exceptions to every rule. You might be drawn to something that doesn't seem, at first glance, like a match for ADHD.
And if you are, you could still be very ADD, but you don't have the hyperactivity component. And you might make a wonderful accountant. You might make a wonderful researcher.
But I have a client who's a lawyer who deals with the most complicated and involved legal cases that go on for years as well.
All right, that's enough of that one. What did you think about that?
To be honest, I don't think they narrowed it down for me too well, but whatever.
All right.
Yeah.
You think
Whatever. I kind of already knew all this stuff. I already knew that there's some jobs we can't handle, and there's some jobs we can thrive if we get the proper nourishment. Not nourishment, but what am I looking? Word am I looking for? Nurturing. You know, like
Nurturing,
nourishment.
yeah.
It's not like I'm eating the job and it's giving me vitamins.
Yeah. Well, the other video I picked out was part 2 to that video, so I want to see if that one's any different. Oh, here it is. Part 2. Best carrier for ADHD Part 2. Can you see it?
Yeah.
All right.
What is the best career?
Can you hear it?
Yeah, I hope this time they get to the
for
points.
Yeah, I hope so too. Yeah.
someone with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder? Hi, I'm Rick.
You know what?
In part
I think it's funny. Like we're watching these videos. I know we were talking about earlier how we were talking how like it's hard for you to focus on a video on stuff because you're ADHD. Like, and here we are watching two videos on ADHD, and I'm
Well,
wondering how you
the
do
thing
it
is,
focus.
like this guy has ADD, right?
Yeah,
And the some of the people he interviews or whatever has ADD. You can kind of tell,
yeah,
and
yeah,
they at the same time, can't they be a little bit more understanding and kind of cut some of the fat out and get to the meat? You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like there's a little bit too much details in this and examples when they could just really just say what the jobs are. But I don't know.
yeah, exactly. You would think that if they have ADHD too, that
Yeah.
they would know how to empathize.
But
Like,
I, at the same time, I'm not being very understanding because even though this is an edited, video that's organized, they're probably having racing thoughts. Like they're probably going
yeah,
on tangents that
exactly, yeah.
One of this search for the ideal career for your attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, we heard from a number of experts, including Wilma Fellman, who specializes in ADHD and career counseling. She's helped thousands of people answer that question. What's the right job?
So the myth is that there is a list of good things and a list of bad things, and it really is a myth. I could dispel each one of those. It really depends on what's driving you.
So there's no one perfect career or even a short list of them? That's actually great news because that means there's actually lots of very good options. And the right option for you depends on you. What matters to you? What do you love? What are your values? For me, I loved comedy and I placed high value on helping others and education. And I found a wonderful niche in the entertainment and the education fields.
That's interesting.
Combining them.
That's interesting. So he's saying there's no one career for people with ADHD, but it comes down to what you love to do. And he said he loved comedy, he loves helping people, and it's interesting. So I'm just thinking, what is it that you love to do? What do you think is your niche?
Well, I'm 41 years old, but if I could go back, I might have tried MMA.
Yeah,
I might have tried that, but I still want to do that as a bucket list thing. I want to get into shape and go trying to learn things and join the amateurs and just get in one fight and never do it again. I just want to try it. But I don't know. I'm trying comedy. But my channel's got 107 subscribers or something. It's not much of a channel, so I'm trying, but there's not. I haven't really had a real breakout video yet. I've had a couple that were in the thousands, but that's whatever. So.
Well, speaking about your channel, if you I want to tell the viewers, if you want to see someone who does comedy on their channel, if you're not offended by politically incorrect videos, you should check out Joseph McDermott's channel. It's called Christian Comedy and Debate Channel. Not Christian comedy, but Christian Comedy and Debate Channel.
Yeah. Thank you for that plug.
You're welcome.
I'm sure I'll become rich now.
As Dr.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Stephen Kurtz famously noted in our documentary ADD and Loving It, when you've seen one kid with ADHD, you've seen one kid with ADHD. And with adults, it gets even more diverse.
Wait.
That said,
he said, I don't get this. He said if you've seen one kid with ADHD, you've seen one kid with ADHD. But if you've seen one, if you see one adult with ADHD, that's when it becomes more diverse. Is he saying that kids that have ADHD are all the same, but adults that have ADHD are different?
I think what he's implying is when you're at an elementary school, they typically do the same stuff. They don't do their homework. They run around playing. But when you mature as an adult and you have ADD, it becomes more splintered into different stuff, I guess. So.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. I just the way he worded that, I was like, wait, what?
Many folks with ADHD do seem to thrive in certain fields. Exciting, highly stimulating, even high-risk situations. When we find the
Oh
right
yeah.
situation that
Can
has
you
us
imagine if you were a surgeon and you had to operate on someone's heart?
No.
Like he said that ADD people need to like he was saying
I
they
don't I don't like I
with
don't like responsibility. I don't
well,
want
he
someone's
says
life on the
well
line.
he said that ADD people will thrive in high risk environments, and the next thing you know, he shows a video of a surgeon doing heart surgery.
Well, maybe yeah, I guess that implies a surgeon, but I think that means more like where you're in danger, not where you have someone else's life in your hands. I
Yeah,
think it would drive us nuts, man. Like myself.
exactly. That's what I'm thinking. I find it kind of funny how he shows a video of a surgeon. I'm like, don't you mean like that? Like it'll be high, like ADD people like high risk for themselves. I can't. You know what? I tell you what. If I was going,
Maybe that was a bad job on the editor's part or
yeah, I'm
something.
thinking so too. Like, yeah, because I'm saying if I wasn't going under the knife, I wouldn't want someone with ADHD operating on me.
I know, man. That's like the last disorder I want someone to working on my surgery, man. Like,
Exactly.
I want a normie for a surgeon, not someone with ADD for crying out loud. Like,
Can you imagine going in for a surgery and like you see your doctor and he pulls out the knife and he's like, "Oh look, a butterfly."
right? I know, huh? It's like,
You
yeah, he starts like, I know. I haven't seen one of
yeah.
those back butterflies in a long time, since 2 years, and he starts talking about that. It's like, you have a job to do, sir. Like, oh yeah, duh.
Yeah, I know, right?
fully engaged, alive, alert. It is awesome.
So often they choose a career that looks bright, sparkly to them, but they don't think about, is that bright, sparkly ability to learn new things and be challenged, how long is that going to last in that career?
For me, it began with a great job giving demonstrations at the Ontario Science Centre. Armed with a Bachelor of Science, I used static electricity to create human dandelions. I froze
Oh.
bananas to a few hundred degrees below zero and used them to hammer.
I use static electricity to create dandelions. What the hell does that mean?
I don't know. I don't know. And he froze bananas.
That made no sense at all. Like, what are you? I was like trying to figure that out. Like, what? Like, this guy really does have ADHD. He got like quite imagination too. Like, wow, he's like older than me. He's like a 4-year-old kid thinking about dandelions.
Yeah, I don't know what he meant by that, to be honest. Like,
Burn nails into boards. Oh, and using what was at the time the world's most powerful laser to burn holes in fireproof bricks. In a few seconds, I could set fire to wood, and one time I actually set fire to my thumb. Problems with attention, anyone? It was amazing. I had the freedom and support to write plays, come up with ideas for exhibits, and take it all on the road with the traveling science circus. And after 5 years, I got bored and left.
what the heck is a traveling science circus? I never heard that before.
Dude, this is a weird video.
I know. I know.
So many people end up staying in a job 6 months, 9 months, 16 months, and they're done. And they'll make up some reason to quit. And what they don't understand is they're bored.
Yeah, I can totally relate. I don't have ADHD, but I can relate to that. Because when I get manic, I can have a job for like 6 to 9 months, but then eventually I get manic. And I'm like, man, F this. I don't need this job. And I end up quitting abruptly, thinking, like, I remember one time, okay, so I was working as a dishwasher and prep cook at this restaurant. I don't want to name the restaurant, but like I had a dishwashing and prep cook job at this restaurant, and I one night I was like working all night long. Like the restaurant closed at like 1 o'clock in the morning, but as a dishwasher I had to close down and like clean up everything before I left, and I didn't get home until like 3 or 4 in the morning. And then I had to do a paper route at the same time, and I had to get the paper route done before 6 in the morning. And after that, I had to come back to the pizza restaurant at 7 in the morning. And then that morning when I came into the restaurant, the assistant manager got in my face and started yelling at me about something I forgot to do the night before. And he was yelling at me, and like instantly I got super angry, and I was like, you know what, F you and F this job, I quit. And then I turned around, got back on my bike and rode it home. And like I was super TPO'd, like, and I ended up going manic, and it was not a good time.
Yeah, I know. I think it's pretty rare to meet someone who hasn't said F off to one of their former bosses, man. So
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
that big a deal.
I know.
Bored. They've learned everything there and they're done. And they can't bear to stay.
Well,
I personally did that.
like it wasn't like it was shortly after that experience actually landed me to go into a manic, and like I went
Yeah,
straight up manic after that. Like it was a scary time. It wasn't a good time.
yeah. So I can relate to that.
For several jobs. I was
Yeah.
underemployed and I would take a job. Oh, that looks easy and fun to learn that industry. But about 16 months, get me out of here. Get me out of here.
This was long before I was diagnosed. And so I didn't understand why I would walk away from a wonderful position that was safe, secure, government pension, freedom. And I went off to do comedy. We started in some of the first comedy clubs, and then we staged
So
shows.
he went from working at a safe, secure government job to going into comedy shows. I mean, what if he would have failed at the comedy show? Then, and like, it's not like he could have gone back to his safe and secure. I guess that I like. You know what? Now I think about it, that is common for those of us with mental illnesses like schizophrenia, bipolar AD. We tend to make decisions based off of impulse a lot of the times.
Yeah, that's true.
A radio series, and naturally enough, television. A series would run a number of seasons and then be done. A stage show would run for a few months and then wrap up. So in a way, I was always changing jobs, forever freelancing. It was never the same, always something new coming, and I was never bored. A lot of people wonder how I handled the stress of waiting to find out if our show had been renewed or whether we'd have to go find something else. But then most people don't have ADHD. But what happens if you love your job and the job changes? You're our company's #1 salesperson. Customers love you, and so to reward you, we're giving you a raise and a promotion to sales manager. Now you'll be managing people, tracking inventory, filling out paperwork, checking details, never seeing customers, never talking to
Yeah,
anyone.
we get
You'll
it.
be fine.
What?
Why does he have to like say so many like? I don't know.
Well, he's making a point.
I know. His point is he's changing you to a position that you can't handle, even though they're buttering you up and stuff.
Exactly.
And trimming
Yeah.
and stuff. But I know that's a nightmare because you want to do what you're doing. You don't care about the pay. You want to have a good time at your job. Like that's how I feel anyway. It's like when I'm at my job, I want to feel like I'm not working and I'm earning money. I want to feel like I'm having fun at the place. Like. So
And it does seem weird. It does seem like I never was promoted at a job, but I've had friends who were, and they told me that being promoted is not all that it's cracked out to be. Because like the higher you go up the ladder, the more responsibility that falls on your shoulders.
Sorry, but I referenced this earlier. You know our mutual friend Christian.
Yeah,
he got me a job at 99 Cent Only, and when they promoted him to manager, it stressed him out so much, man. And he eventually quit, man. So yeah, he would have been better off as just staying as a stalker, and just stalking. Themselves,
Well, it does definitely seem like when you get promoted, your job becomes more stressful.
And it's not much of a raise either. It's like what, 35 cents or something. Ooh.
Yeah, actually, when I worked at McDonald's, I knew this one girl. I forgot what her name was, but she was a crew trainer, and like she told me she doesn't want to ever go higher than being a crew trainer. Like she doesn't want to become a shift manager because she doesn't want that kind of responsibility. So she just stayed as a crew trainer the whole time I worked there. She never advanced past being a crew trainer.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. I mean, at least she knew her limitations.
Yeah, I mean, me too. Like, there was times I would get static from other employees because, like, I was happy just bagging groceries and gathering carts. Man, I liked the carts part. That was
Yeah,
cool. It was so simple and it like required a little bit of strength, but not much. But you know, it was cool. Like getting a little bit of
yeah,
a workout out there and going outside for an hour and just like be
yeah,
by yourself and do carts. So, but like I like that position compared to the other ones. But the other ones were quote unquote adult jobs, and the courtesy clerk was like for kids in high school or whatever. But I
yeah.
liked that job though. I didn't mind it. It's just that other employees, especially this one in particular, would rumor monger and give me crap about it, and like that would make me miserable at the job like that. Like the people that
Yeah,
mouth off about my position, like being a I was like 36 at the time, and I was doing courtesy clerk. But it's like, hey man, you might not know this about me, but I'm mentally ill, man. I can't like go to college and get a good career. I'm not really capable of that, So I have to do what I got to do to survive and work. As long as
yeah.
at least I'm working. At least I'm not sitting on my butt and not doing nothing with my life. At least I got a job,
Exactly.
you know.
Exactly. That's right. That's exactly right.
Financials and scheduling and timekeeping, tracking data. You're going to love it. What do you mean you quit?
I had a patient who was 65 and 6 months away from getting her pension at the bank. She was a customer service agent, and she had the highest ratings of any employee because people walked in with complaints and she chatted them up, and they walked out not even knowing why they'd come in. And then she was downsized to be a teller, count money quietly in a distracting environment with no communication whatsoever, and reconcile her accounts at 4 o'clock. And it was a disaster. And she didn't think she could make the 6 months.
A guy likes to program, right? I really like the internet, program, and they go through and they get out there, and all of a sudden they're like on probation. They don't really know what's going on. I'm finding, well, they're in a cubicle programming themselves. They liked it when they were with other people. That was the environment. Now they're in a closet all by themselves and they're bored out of their mind.
The right environment, the helpful colleagues, the understanding boss can make a dramatic difference. In the wrong environment or unhelpful co-workers.
You know what? Like, it's true. A helpful boss can create a right environment. I know, like I remember my friend Joe Roman. Like me and him worked at a Sonic one time together, and like the manager there named Teresa, she was such a grade A hole. Like she was always taking out her anger out on us. And like there was one time, me and Joe laugh about this to this day. But there was one time the Teresa had me, like we were in the middle of a lunch rush, and she had me like take every time there was a drink or a smoothie made, I was supposed to wipe down the sides of the smoothie or drink or whatever to make sure there wasn't anything on it. And like I was, for the most part, I was doing a good job at keeping up and doing that. But there was a couple cups that I missed a spot on a couple cups, and Teresa blew up on me in the middle of everyone. She was like, David, you wring out the rag and then you wipe the cup down. She said that out loud. And like Joe Roman saw me and he was like, dude, you look like you want to smack the crap out of her. And I was like, yeah, I was thinking about playing stupid and making her repeat herself. But yeah, I was pretty mad about that. She actually made the job at Sonic so miserable. But you know what? I found out why she was like that. Because one day the franchise owner came down and he was treating her like garbage. Like he
Right.
was talking down to her. He was being a hole to her. I was like, for a second there, I actually felt sorry for her. I was like, wow. Like, but then
I don't know what it is about upper management, but they always seem to hire mean people as supervisors and managers and whatnot. It just seems like,
yeah,
why do they do that? Why do they always hire really rude, condescending, sarcastic a-holes to at that position? Why can't they hire someone that's nice,
Well, I don't think it's that they're hiring. I think that the people just built up the ladder. Like
Yeah, but yeah,
Teresa probably started off as a regular car hop at Sonic, and she just gradually moved up the ladder.
yeah, but well, I guess mean people are very good at their jobs or something, and
I
they're very
guess.
determined. I don't know.
Yes.
But no, I guess
Closed-minded, boss.
I think what happens is they work themselves up the ladder, then they build up arrogancy, and he goes, "Oh, I made my way up here, and the people are underneath me. Now they have to listen to me." Kind of attitude,
That's true. Yeah, exactly.
Can be brutal. In real estate, they say the key is location, location, location. With ADHD, it's about situation, the right situation. All right, it's time to talk about something that could make or break your ability to function: structure. Too many adults with ADHD resist the idea of structure, thinking, oh, I'll be bored. They want freedom, excitement, new challenges. Ironically, you'll find a lot of folks with ADHD thriving in jobs that offer lots of...
So do you think as someone with ADHD that you don't like structure?
Yeah, because like when people give me ideas, like I should make a list and I should check off chores and stuff. Yeah, that sounds good, but like doing that in itself is a chore, and I don't even want to do that, So
Yeah. You know what? I don't think that's just people with ADHD. I just think that's normal for all people. Like, I know me personally, I don't like sticking to a schedule. Well, part of my reason why I don't like sticking to a schedule, and I know you can relate to this too, but like you and me both were in juvie for an extended amount of time, and we got like we were stuck in an environment that was structured where every hour they had something planned for us. And at least with me, when I first got out on my own, I didn't know what to do because I was so used to structure. I remember when I worked at that pizza restaurant, I was being trained. Every single time I wanted to use the bathroom, I'd ask the person that was training me, I'd ask them for permission to use the bathroom. And then it turned out one day, like he told me, he was like, David, you don't need to ask me if you can use the bathroom. Just go use the bathroom. I was like, really? And that revolutionized everything for me. Because I realized I was free then. I was like, I don't have to. I don't have to abide by structure right now.
I know. That reminds me, like I was in juvenile detention for 4 months, and like like in certain sections of the units of the whole facility, they have red lines on the ground, and you can't cross a red line unless you say cross, and some adult says it's okay for you to cross. So like I was so used to that. Every time I saw a red line on the outside, I would go cross. And like that took me like a couple days to get over that. Like I was like, so used to doing it. Like if I saw a red line or like a yellow line or something, I go cross. But like, oh wait, I'm not in juvenile anymore. Like,
That's pretty funny, actually.
of excitement, but within a clear structure with very.
So wait, when you saw a red line, you would say cross. Did anybody was anybody around when you used to say that, or were you just?
No, I was just so used to doing it automatically. It just kind of came out and it was programmed to do it,
Yeah, I get that.
Rules like the military, police work, emergency rooms. You call 911 and a whole bunch of folks with ADHD are going to show up at your house.
Can you imagine calling up 911 and a whole group of ADHD people show up at your house?
Oh, it would be so disorganized, and so it would just want to work, I remember I had an ex that had ADD too. And we thought that like, oh, since you have it and I have it, let's work together so we don't lose things. And like, it just doubled our, it made it worse actually. So,
worse?
Yeah. We're losing stuff all the time anyways,
Yeah, I get that.
Work if you can get in the door.
I get questions about wanting to go into law enforcement or wanting to go into the military and what the restrictions are there. And unfortunately, in the U.S. military, you have to prove or establish that you are stimulant medication free for a year's time, which is kind of ironic because
Wait, so in order to join, if you're mentally ill and you want to join the military, you have to prove that you're free, that you're off medications for a whole year just to join the military.
I can see why.
Yeah, I can
You know
see why
why?
too.
Like, because say for instance, you're out overseas and you get lost from your platoon, and all you have is your canteen, and you lost your meds, and you're not medicated for a while. You're gonna have to learn how to wing it without your meds, man. Out when you're in the desert and you're like trying to survive, you're gonna have to try to, because that might be, because if you don't, if you can't function without your meds and you're out in the desert without your meds, you're dead. So
Yeah. Yeah, I know. That makes sense.
because what happens is that the U.S. military typically gives special forces and fighter pilots stimulant medication, whether they need it or not, to hyper-focus on
What?
missions. But the ADHD...
They give them stimulant medications to make them hyper focus. Like that's it.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
yeah. Like I hate to say this, but I remember one time I had a friend, and he gave me about, I don't know, I'll be conservative and say 4 or 5 lines of cocaine, right?
Yeah.
And this was before I was born again, by the way. I was a pretty party animal back in the day, but I did about 4 or 5 lines, and then the car ride home, when they were dropping me off home, I was normal for the first time in my life. Even if I wanted to have racing thoughts, I didn't have them. Anytime anyone said anything, I could just hear it, and I wouldn't have racing thoughts about it, and I could understand it completely. And I was like, this is what it's like to not have ADHD. And then when it wore off, the ADHD came back.
Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
The stigma is still there, and it's very difficult to overcome going into that profession. And what is also difficult about it is that the military, and even I would say law enforcement, also are very highly structured. So people with ADHD inherently would do better there because of the structure that's placed around them.
There are higher than average
There you go, bro. Like if you want the perfect job for you, you join the military.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
rates of ADHD among athletes, and sports have very specific rules. Whereas you might think in the arts there's no structure. Well, structure doesn't mean routine or the same over and over again. An artist works inside of the same structure, basically a flat canvas rectangle, a landscape or a portrait, but inside that rectangle, the only limit is their skill and their imagination. And I can tell you that comedy, which seems to break all the rules, works inside of a number of structures, joke structures and story structures. So to review, the right job for you depends on 2 things, you and the job.
Don't start with what's wrong. Start with what's right. Start with your strengths. I mean, we hear this constantly, lead with your strengths.
When I ask people to imagine themselves doing something that will get their heart going, you get 2 responses. One is they really know, or 2, they have no clue. And so we empower them to begin the process of identifying the clues of what is that heart and head piece together.
There are about 15 things that we collect data on.
What?
Paul Wastash.
Paul Wastash, yeah.
On interests, personality, values, aptitudes, skills, abilities, your focus pattern, your energy pattern. There's a whole bunch of things we need to collect and put into the bowl and stir and see what they look like and what kinds of careers they match. And then, and only then, do I add on the layer of, okay, now what are the challenges that would prevent you from getting to your goal? And so what we want to find out first is, what are you really good at? Yeah. What are you strong with? What are your passions? What drives you? And then add
That's
the
actually,
transparency.
I kind of told you the same stuff, but like not too long ago, about figuring out what your passions are, what you're good at, and combining those in order to find the right career for yourself. Like what are you passionate about? What do you like to do? Like I know you're big on like technology, so you can maybe like I don't know, like make a like your music career.
Yeah.
Or you like you like writing poetry. Maybe you could write like a poetry book and publish that.
Yeah, the thing is though, I only write good poetry when I'm depressed. So I'm really depressed right now. So
well, you know what? This can be a challenge for you. Like you can take like for instance, like I'm trying to write a book right now that I'm not used to writing when I'm stable. Like I'm used the books that have written have been during when I was hypomanic, so I was very creative and everything.
Whoa.
Now I'm trying to write a book now with a stable mind, and it's a lot more difficult. But I'm like, you know what? I'm up for the challenge. So yeah, I mean, you can look at it like that.
The thing is, though, when I used to write poetry, I did have a little bit of like people that like my poetry, but like I was like 14 years old and I was on an older website that's kind of defunct now, and like I was like my parents just divorced. I was just starting to feel my mental illness come about, and I was going through like quite a few things, in puberty and the typical things that go through, and so I wrote a lot of poetry about my the divorce, and I wrote poetry about my anger issues and stuff. Like now, I'm married. I'm all right. Like I'm in a good state in my life, so I can't really write the dark, depressing poetry that
why don't you write positive poetry about your relationship with Christ?
Oh yeah, I did do that one time actually.
Yeah,
I wrote a poem. I was in a writing group at this godforsaken communist compound called Community 43. And I wrote a scripture based on one of the rules in the writing group is like you can't say anything negative about the people's writings, right? And I wrote a scripture based on one of the Psalms, and the way they responded to it, like it was like, oh, yeah, great, oh my God. And I never wanted to go back in there ever again. That was like one of the dominoes falling to me. Never want to go to Community 43 ever again. That place sucks, man.
Yeah. No, I understand where you come from, but maybe you can like write poetries about your relationship with Christ and make a book out of it.
I guess so.
Yeah, it's an idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to do something more lucrative than that. I wouldn't mind having a structured job and make a paycheck every 2 weeks or every week. I can't deal with customers, and it has to be something I can handle. That's all I'm asking.
Well, I get that. I get that.
Transparency on top of the challenges and see where they're going to mess you up.
Which brings us to transparency, disclosure. Do you have to disclose your ADHD when you're getting hired? Should you disclose your ADHD? How much do you reveal? It's a minefield, a real minefield. I've done a separate video on who to tell, and it's full of really smart suggestions.
That's actually an interesting topic because, like not just with ADHD people, but pretty much any one of us who has a mental illness, the question arises: when do you tell your boss about your mental illness? Like me personally, whenever I've gotten a job, I've always told my bosses right off the bat. Well, I mean, since I got more serious about mental health, I've told all my bosses that I have schizoaffective disorder, bipolar type, and that means I have to yada yada yada. Like most like since being diagnosed, most of the bosses I had were pretty understanding, but like I don't know, but that's what I always like. I even applied that to like dating. Like whenever I was dating, I would tell people that was interested in me. I would tell them right away that I have a mental illness, but I'm taking care of it. And the way I looked at it is that if they turn me down afterwards, then that's obviously a woman I don't want to be with anyways.
Right. Well, I've had jobs that I've had jobs where I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry.
It's your AD.
It was on track for a second, and then it just ran off.
It's your ADD, bro.
Yeah. I'm kind of tired too.
Yeah.
I woke up really late then this afternoon, and then I didn't get much sleep last night, and then I had to wake up early in the morning to get some food, and I'm just tired.
No, I get it.
And I'm 41.
Err on the side of caution.
Pursue something that attracts your attention, read about it, and find out whether that's really going to be a good fit. You kind of try it on mentally for size.
This is great advice for everybody. Talk to people who are already doing that job.
What do you think? What do you think about this? Like, would you, when you were dating or you were again looking for a job, do you agree with me that you should tell them right away that you have a mental illness, or do you think you shouldn't? When do you think it would be appropriate for you to disclose that?
Well, I made the mistake of not telling my exes that I was mentally ill and I wasn't on medication, and the former medication I did take, it made me not be able to quote unquote perform in bed. So I would avoid the naughty, and I just figured though, women don't care about that stuff. It's just guys that care about that stuff. Women care about the heart. Oh no, I was wrong about that. But so when I would avoid sex, they would dump me.
I think you were just hanging out with the wrong kind of girl.
Yeah, I know. Like, women. Yeah, but the thing is, though, I would be like, hey, I'm a Christian. Or what about you? And they're like, I believe. And then next thing you know, they want to have sex with me. I'm like, I thought you said you're a Christian.
Anybody can say I believe. That's why it's important to actually ask theological questions.
Well, I don't know. I was lonely, and I was just like, "Oh, she's a Christian. She's single, and she likes me. Good enough for me."
I know. I used to be like that too. So I wasn't like trying to judge you or anything. I was the same way. Like before I met my wife, when I was like in my early 20s, I was pretty desperate too. So.
But you know how puppy love is, right? Like when you meet someone when you're like you haven't been on a date for a while. And you get a number, and she smiles, and like everything's going good at first. You're like you just start thinking of marriage and shit and stuff.
Yeah, you're the word is you're infatuated with them.
Yeah, right. So
yeah.
But then
or research.
Yeah, what?
But like whether it's a job or a relationship, things don't like if you're not open and up front at first, things tend to go haywire. So you should be more upfront about that stuff.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. You should I think the way I look at it, like I used to use my diagnosis as a litmus test. So whenever I was talking to someone like a boss or a woman that I was interested in, I would say, hey, look, I have a mental illness. I'm taking care of it though. And depending on how I remember before I met my wife, I was talking to this one woman that lived in where did she live? It was somewhere here in Ohio. Like she had 4 kids, and she asked me if that would bother me, and I told her no. And I turned around and said, "I have mental illness. Does that bother you?" And she said no. But then that fizzled out because we didn't really have anything in common, so that kind of fizzled out. But yeah. So do you have any last thoughts about those videos that we watched?
I thought there was too much fat, not enough meat on those videos. I think they should have been more straightforward.
Yeah.
But
no, I agree.
It is what it is.
Yeah, you would think for people
people with ADD don't got the longest attention span in the world, so they should have made it shorter.
No, I agree. They could have because they said they have ADHD themselves, so you think
basically what I got from those 2 videos was ADD people are not the same, and they thrive in different environments, and they need to be nurtured. That's what
That's pretty much what they said.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty
Except for
much.
they said a lot of other stuff too, and it was hard to me to pay attention to that stuff, but whatever.
Yeah. All right. Well, this concludes our episode of Real Life with Schizophrenia. Thank you, Joe, for joining me on here. And keep in mind, everybody, we're going to do another. The next episode will not be next week. It'll be the week after next. And like I was going to say, if you guys have any mental disorders that you want us to go over in the next episode, please let me know in the comment section, or if you're on Facebook with me, message me on Facebook, or you can email me at christcentermentalhealth@gmail.com, and like you can tell me what you want us to go over. Or Joe, if you could think of any mental illnesses that you want us to go over, you can let me know too.
Have we done bipolar yet?
I don't think so.
Maybe
You want to do bipolar next?
Sure.
All right, we'll do bipolar next. It's a good idea. But again, if any of you have anything else you want us to talk about, you can let me know. All right. Thank you to the viewers who watched this live stream. Thank you to the viewers who are going to watch the playback to this live stream. Please like, share this video with someone you want to hear this message, and please comment your thoughts below. And if you've been blessed by the Christ Center Mental Health Ministry, please consider supporting the ministry either through Patreon, Venmo, or Cash App for $5 or more pledges to Patreon, or a one-time donation of $10 or more to Cash App or Venmo. I'll send you a few copies of my books as a token of gratification. All right, thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night and stay strong in the Lord.
God bless.
God bless.